Boeing knew that the 737 MAX was a bad plane and they actively covered it up. 2 planes crashed and several hundred people lost their lives. We need more journalism calling out corporate malfeasance. We need more journalists to be digging into these companies, looking for sources. And admittedly, we need more people within these companies to blow the whistle on this stuff. Listen, man, here's the story. Hundreds of damning emails reveal Boeing employees knew about 737 MAX issues and even mocked the FAA when they appeared to cover up problems. I think we got a cultural problem, man. I think ego, narcissism, selfishness is taking over. And so you have people who would straight up say, I will not put my family on one of these planes, not telling anyone. And then what happens? People died. Planes crashed. And it makes me really, really angry that they knew that you could have been one of these people to stand up and say, this is what's going on, but nobody wants to risk their jobs. What do we get instead? People losing their lives. What happened to the era of journalism that would dig into this stuff and find this stuff out? Now, I'm not saying every journalist is obligated to actually find these stories. We never know what's going on. But so many people are obsessed with stupid things these days. Video game controversies. Look, if you're a fan of video games, I understand. But if you're a journalist trying to do serious work and you're writing about stupid cultural nonsense in the Orange Man, we've got serious problems. But I blame the companies too. Let's read the story. Hundreds of damning internal emails have revealed that Boeing employees knew about problems with the now grounded 737 MAX and even mocked the Federal Aviation Administration when they appeared to get away with covering those issues up. Boeing released the trove of internal messages on Thursday that raised serious questions about its development of simulators and the 737 MAX that was grounded in March after 2 fatal crashes. In the messages, which were handed over to Congress and the FAA, Boeing employees talked about misleading regulators about problems with simulators. Quote, I still haven't been forgiven by God for covering up what I did last year, one employee says in a 2018 message. One employee also told a colleague they wouldn't let their family ride on a 737 MAX. But you know what? That person has no problem with you and your family. And some families lost their lives. Would you put your family on a MAX simulator trained aircraft? I wouldn't, one employee said to another colleague. The colleague responded, no. In an April 2017 exchange of instant messages, 2 employees expressed complaints about the MAX following references to issues with the plane's flight management computer. This airplane is designed by clowns who in turn are supervised by monkeys, one employee wrote. In one message dated November 2015, which appears to shed light on lobbying methods used when facing demands from regulators, a Boeing employee notes, regulators were likely to want simulator training for a particular type of cockpit alert. We are going to push back very hard on this and will likely need support at the highest levels when it comes time for the final negotiation, the employee writes. In the messages, employees also complained about Boeing senior management, the company's selection of low-cost suppliers, and wasting money. Names of the employees who wrote the emails and text messages were redacted. Boeing, who went into damage control, said it was considering disciplinary action against some employees over the message exchanges. Quote, some of these communications relate to the development and qualification of Boeing's MAX simulators in 2017 and 2018. These communications contain provocative language and in certain instances raise questions about Boeing's interactions with the FAA in connection with the simulator qualification process, a statement from the company said. Having carefully reviewed the issue, we are confident that all of Boeing's MAX simulators are functioning effectively. The qualification activities referenced in these communications occurred early in the service life of these simulators. Since that time, both internal and external subject matter experts have repeatedly tested and qualified the simulators at issue. Why don't we know about this stuff? Why don't people stand up? You know, Project Veritas says, be brave. And I'll tell you this, don't look at me. You got something to say it to them. But they're one of the few organizations actually digging into corporate malfeasance, and they have my respect because of it. I wish these people went on the record and told journalists like Veritas what was going on. And you still can. I don't know where you work or what you do, but if you recognize something illegal or some wrongdoing, please warn somebody. I don't care if you talk to journalists or otherwise. Post something online. Tell people what's happening. You know, too many people in today's day and age are narcissistic. You know, it's all about me. It's all about, hey, man, don't bother me. I just want to get by. I just want to do my thing. Time and time again, this is what we tend to see. When it comes to history, it was actually the minority of this country who supported the Revolutionary War, and the biggest faction you had you had opposition to independence, you had support for. The biggest group was leave me alone, I don't care. And that still is a fact today when it comes to voting. Well, if you don't vote, I'm not going to blame you because I didn't vote. But it's not so much about that. I understand there can be problems in the system, but you can stand up and call something out. You can speak out about these problems, man. Look at this. I say, these communications do not reflect the company we are and need to be, and they are completely unacceptable. That said, we remain confident in the regulatory process for qualifying these simulators. No, not at all. The MAX have been grounded worldwide since March after 2 crashes that killed 346 people. Boeing is still working to update software and other systems on the plane to convince regulators to let it fly again. I'm never going on one of these planes. Are you nuts? I don't even want to fly in a Boeing ever again. The work has taken much longer than Boeing expected. An FAA spokesman said the agency found no new safety risks that have not been already identified, blah, 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 blah. Okay, we get it, man. I'm going to do this. You know that saying? Good times make soft people make hard times hard. What is it? Strong men make good times make weak men make bad times make strong men. Something like that. I'm probably getting it wrong. You know what? We have been in such a long period of just nonstop decadence and gluttony that we now have people who would actively cover up failures in planes. You are putting people's lives at risk, and that has cost lives. And I look to, I'm going to do it, the millennial generation. A generation of young people who only care about themselves, who complain about how they want more. And I think one of the big factors as to why so many millennials are socialists is because they're jealous, entitled, whiny babies that wouldn't stand up and say, this is bad. They wouldn't do it. Now, I don't know the age of the people working at Boeing. They're probably a little older. I don't know. But we are headed towards, hopefully it reverses, right? As I pointed out in my main segment at 10 a.m., the U.S. is becoming more conservative. I guess it's a good thing. But I feel like we're likely going to see more arrogant, despicable, ignorant, selfish humans. George Carlin said he doesn't vote, right? And he said, the problem isn't the politicians, it's the public. If you have a selfish, ignorant public, you get selfish, ignorant politicians. If you have a selfish, ignorant public, you get corrupt, regulatory processes. You get people covering up bad planes, and Boeing knew about it, the employees knew about it, and they let it go. Who cares? Not on me, they say. I think these people who knew about it, I think the people who covered it up should face criminal penalties, some responsibility. I look at the young people today. They're overwhelmingly socialist. They live in, I'll tell you this. Let me tell you some stories. We're gonna turn this into everyone's entitled. When I worked for Vice, you have the Williamsburg neighborhood in New York City. Williamsburg was the hipster neighbor. I don't know what's going on there anymore. I think the property is going down because they're the L train or something. But all the hipsters want to live there. It was really expensive. You had people making like $30,000 a year, spending 50 to 60% of their take-home income on paying rent to live in this upscale neighborhood, and then getting angry about it, and they couldn't afford healthcare, and they deserved all of these things. And I would say to them, dude, I live in Bushwick, where I spend a quarter of my income on rent, and I sleep on a couch, and I save all of my money. Or actually, no, when I moved to Bushwick, I was had my own apartment. But I was in Williamsburg sleeping on a couch because I didn't want to spend 50% of my income. It's really funny when I hear people talk about how they can't afford their bills. My question are, what are you spending on your bills? How did we build this culture where we now just have self-pleasuring, I'm trying to be careful, my language can be family friendly, people who actively knew and wouldn't put their own family on this, but had no problem sending you and your family and your kids to their deaths. 346 people because of the sheer selfishness and refusal. You know what? I don't know what to tell you, man. But this is one of the most mind-numbing and frustrating stories. Boeing employees knew about the MAX issues and mocked the FAA when they covered up the problems. God hasn't forgiven you, but I'll tell you what. Depending on your religion, he will. But I think what we need to say, and I hope this message resonates, I'm going to give a shout out to Veritas. Dude, if you work for a company and they're doing stuff like this, send a good old email to Project Veritas, and they will do the right thing, and they will shine a light on this. And I trust almost no one else. I got to be honest. You look at ABC News, you send this to them, I'll tell you exactly what happens. These here's how it goes. Boeing employee contacts ABC. ABC says, we got a big story. The boss comes in and says, nah, we're going to scrap this one. Yeah, Epstein, you can't do it. But you look to people like Veritas, you look to independent, smaller organizations, and they will carry this out and do the right thing. The New York Times ran a fake story about a Trump supporter regretting his decision. Local news called him out. Dude never voted for Trump in the first place. Man, this kind of stuff gives me very little hope for the future. So maybe I need to do a better segment in the next few minutes to lighten up the mood. But dude, we had 2 planes crash, and these people knew what was going on. And I hope we actually get some retribution. But I fear that criminal penalty and civil penalty will not be enough to deter this kind of behavior, because the real problem is at our core, we are a selfish, ignorant society where people are so entitled, they care not for their neighbors. And this is why, I think probably one of the reasons you'll see me calling out the Democrats is for philosophically in line with this. Yeah, conservatives rally around a cause and community, and they have concerns about their community. And the left, just socialists who are entitled and demand more. I don't know the political alignment of these people. I'm not saying everybody on the right's perfect, but we've got a twisted, selfish, ignorant culture growing. I got a couple more segments coming up in a few minutes. I'll see you all shortly.